Without much introduction, let's see the continuation, the life of Kuma and the last moments of Jenny's breaths, and the transfer of suffering to the child, Bonney, in the iconic episode 1132. The episode begins in Baltego. Chaos fills the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army, a revolution in the land of Toomey and Blue. The East is about to be suppressed by the military forces, and since the Revolutionary Army works to ignite revolutions around the world and support them until they succeed, it is their duty to provide support now. And since the main ship is currently busy with providing assistance due to the numerous injuries on board from the Kingdom of Joa, Kuma takes on this task, and despite Eva's attempts to stop him from doing so, Kuma is not in his usual state of mind since the incident of Ginny's kidnapping, which has been several months ago. Kuma is no longer himself. He has become angry, very sad, and pours his emotions strongly into work intensely and exposes himself to great pressure, which is concerning Eva, the kidnapper, flies Kuma and reaches the required kingdom. And from the conversation that goes on in his mind, we know that Jenny was kidnapped by a dragon. Due to her beauty, Jenny became the center of attention. This filthy one took her against her will to make her a wife. And since then, the army has heard nothing about Jenny. That incident made Kuma angry. As I said, even his personality changed, and he no longer smiled or laughed, as we have become accustomed to. It has become close to the character of the tyrant known through our following of the anime. He invaded the kingdom, and in brief scenes, we see that he was able to overthrow the regime and succeed in the revolution in the land of Tomi, which lasted for 3 years. 2 years have passed since the incident of the kidnapping of Jenny, and in the sea, we see a small boat from which the sound of a child's crying can be heard. And on board is a woman who looks extremely tired while wrapped in a shawl that covers her body as if she is hiding from the rays of the sun, and her body has signs resembling jewels. The woman is Ginny, and this child is Bonney, whom she gave birth to from that celestial dragon. The scene shifts back to Baltego Kuma, who is suffering from chronic depression and living with himself, breaking his silence with the joyful news we received. A call from Ginny. They can't believe this. They start talking to her, and Ginny tells them that she managed to go down, meaning she left the marijuana and descended to the underworld. And she was able to do this because she is sick, and they decided to get rid of her in seconds. The overwhelming joy has turned into shock. Surprise, Ginny tells them, "I wish I could your vision." But this call is unfortunately to say goodbye. Ginny is dying and doesn't have much time left to tell them the reason and what happened to her until she died. But Kuma has become like a madman, unable to believe the words, because Jenny will not tell them where she is. Remember, the only place that Jenny might go. Once she descended to the church where she lived, Kuma's companions in the kingdom of Sorbet set off. Kuma goes directly there. The call ends. In Jenny's words, "This is Dragon, and my big brother, take care of Komachi, for he is kind without limits. And you, O Komachi, remember that I will always, always be there forever, love you." Then life separates us. Kuma arrived at the kingdom. He was very fast. It probably took just a few minutes only upon his arrival because Jenny's body was still in its place. Kuma enters and sees Jenny's journey, a lifeless body lying lifeless in his hands after he did the impossible to find her since the incident of her kidnapping. The old women of the town tell him that Jenny told them. She is suffering from a rare disease that makes her skin turn blue as soon as she is exposed to any natural light, and it hardens like stone. Kuma cries, and he has the right to cry. Jenny and Kuma lived together for 24 years, from the time they were 9 years old until he became 3 years old. Overall, it was a happy life. They loved each other very much, so for his life to suddenly change, and within just 2 years, the girl transforms from a vibrant being who eats everything into a lifeless corpse. Without life, who can blame him? And here Kuma hears the voice of the child, who was with Ginny, and we know that Ginny sacrificed. She sailed under the sunlight so that she could manage to bring Bonney to safety and ensure that she would live. And the message was directed to Kuma because she intended to the place where he resides, promising him that he would take care of her daughter. And this chapter ends with a scene. Kuma Under the Cross is honestly a masterpiece. The episode was cinematic par excellence, if correct the expression. But it is a calm drama without fights and action, which is why it does not stir up a fuss. In the next scene, we see Kuma visiting Jenny's grave. He gives her flowers, and this is where Kuma's life begins. Cab, Inexperienced in raising the child, Bonney was inexperienced in everything in holding her in. He does not breastfeed her milk, but is asked by the village elders to put Bonney in an iron or steel cage when he sleeps because he might crush her with his huge and giant body. The episode shows us the passage of time at a rapid pace, where Bonney, who resembles a dough ball, starts to crawl, and then we see her learning to walk, and she starts calling Kuma baby, and this made Kuma melt with happiness. Damn it. It was as if a giant bear and a bee passed by. The size difference was enormous. The years and raises her well, living a life beautiful, free from problems and worries. Bonney enjoyed a wonderful childhood, and in addition to Bonney's upbringing, Kuma maintained his role as one of the pillars of the Revolutionary Army. During that period, Sabo joined them, and we see that famous scene of Sabo fighting against Kuma for training. Thus, his life was work and upbringing throughout Bonney's early years. Then one night, Bonney wakes up, and we notice that she has a mark on her cheek similar to the mark that it was on her mother's skin that Kuma happened to be Kuma, was now returning from work, and found Bonney playing while waiting for him. Then a warm hug between the father and daughter, and indeed, we did not see the scene. But Kuma noticed the presence of the mark on Bonney's cheek. So the next day he covered all the windows of the church so that no light would enter, and after his friends learned about Bonney's condition with the same disease as Ginny, they went to bring the doctor. But the first doctor could not recognize this disease, nor could the female doctor, as it is not even lead poisoning. The white that struck his country Lao in his childhood, the disease seems new and rare, and is not recognized. The doctors, and it is expected that if it were a known disease, the doctors in the Marigold would have been able to treat it, or they were the cause of her illness in the first place. Days pass and months go by, and Bonney is now 5 years old. She is a permanent captive inside the church, not allowed to go out, and that is why she was always subjected to bullying from the village boys, who would call her the vampire and raise the cross on her face to eliminate her, since vampires are weak against icons. The Christian faith at this age began to show the features of personality. The injury is evident on her, but in this scene here, Bonney gave them her middle finger. But the studio deleted this scene. Their actions are strange. When it comes to naked clothing, no, they delete something, but in return, they increase their own. And this, the movement. They deleted it? What a strange contradiction. The important thing is to escape. The children after Bonney taught them a lesson and seem angry about the boys bullying her facial mark. Kuma told her that these are the jewels on her cheek, and they are jealous of you because you are beautiful. Words like this. For a little girl, it will certainly make her happy in the evening, and in a warm, beautiful scene, Kuma asks Bonney, "Which places will you go to when you recover and are able to go out?" Bonney says that she will visit the Sky Islands, which Kuma had never heard about, and she tells him that she read about them in books, and they are located above the clouds, close to the sun. So it is likely that Nika is there. And speaking of Nika, Kuma rises and begins to perform the Nika dance that he learned it from his father when he was young, and it seems he taught her. For Bonney, because she was happy with it and shared it with Kuma in this strange dance, they agree on visit to Sky Island when Bonney reaches the age. At her age, she will visit the island at the age of 6. The amphibians mean the Traveller Project. In the next scene, we see Kuma talking about his future. With a doctor, he has always been searching during this time. He asks about his daughter's illness and treatment, and this is what he tells him. Doctor said Bonney might be suffering from a disease. The ruby scales that have no cure, say. The doctor also says that it is a recently emerged and rare disease such that stones appear on the skin when exposed to sunlight, moonlight, or any natural light, and blocking the light from the patient will not stop the disease from progressing. Over time, it will indeed be slower, but it will continue to progress. Then the doctor hits him with the bitter and ugly truth in front of Bonney. 5 years at most to stay alive. Meaning she will leave this life before the 10th episode. What a disaster. Bonney woke up. From her sleep, she heard the conversation that took place between the doctor and Kuma, specifically part of reaching the age. It was 10 o'clock, but she did not understand what would happen when she is 10 years old. And when she innocently asked her father, Kuma could not foresee what would happen to her at that age. That he would tell her the truth, but he said that the doctor tell him that you will be healed when you reach the age the 10th. And I cried because this is a long time, of course. This statement made Bonney extremely happy. When you know a specific time for her recovery and her ability to go out and travel has been a year since that day, and we see that the kingdom of Sorbet is on fire. The nightmare has returned to the kingdom with flames. King Picori has returned to power and wants to burn everything that threatens his authority over the country. And now, complete massacres are taking place in the streets, but and we cannot see those matters. It's a shame the episode ends with your anger at hearing this. The news is good. The episode was wonderful, indeed wonderful very much, but the nature of these cinematic episodes does not. It can be given its due in its reviews because its beauty is primarily established,